Bastin and the county engineer. There's a couple of things I'd like to start with just to clarify kind of where we are in the process. First, and I apologize if this wasn't clear when I was talking to you about this at the previous meeting, but this is the beginning of the engagement and outreach process. This is not by any means the point where we would have all the answers, or the residents would have all the answers. The vote that is up for consideration for the council is to move forward with the process of forming the regional utility district. And the reason that that is important is because it fulfills a number of different steps. To Councilwoman Keller's comment about the meeting that was held and no one was able to attend because we had prior commitments. Those of us who are on the project team working on this regularly, we found out at 11 o'clock on Monday about the meeting. And yes, we had prior commitments, but even further, and I explained this in an outreach or an email to all of you, we had concerns about the legality and the validity of that meeting because of how it could be perceived by the state. We did not want to give the perception that we were trying to circumvent any of the outreach efforts that are very clearly defined by the state law. And that was one of the big concerns for that. Secondly, I was receiving complaints that residents were not invited to a meeting that I wasn't invited to hear me present about a project. And that was very concerning to me because that's telling me that the audience that needs to be reached was not reached. So at this point, and I'm not saying this is a good process, this is a state process. This is not a process that Madison County has developed or that we have, frankly, control over. But the process is that the council and the commissioners have to adopt a resolution supporting the formation of the regional utility district. And then that enters into the outreach phase. From there, we have a very defined regimen of outreach initiatives to make sure that the residents and those who could potentially be affected by this are notified. It involves targeted mailers to property owners within the project areas and within the potential service areas. It involves radio ads. It involves newspaper advertisements, publication on a website, and other mechanisms. And that is, again, once we move to the next step, that is all initiated. From the beginning of that process, then in roughly 30 days, or at least 30 days, to make sure that the appropriate individuals are notified, then there is a public hearing. And during that public hearing, we have very specific information that we are to share to inform the residents and those who are interested in the project of what is being proposed and why it's being proposed and what the need for it is. And then it also outlines the process to move forward. From that public hearing, then there is a 180-day period, minimum 180-day period, that the Indiana Department of Environmental Management would kick off to receive public comment, public engagement. That gives residents the time to talk to their elected officials, to review documents that will be made available through the website that we are working on setting up, to understand more about what the project would entail. And it also gives the project team more opportunity to move forward with the conceptualizing and development of the alternatives. And what I mean by that is pursuing different funding options and working with rate consultants to understand what that looks like from a financial standpoint, so that we have better information, more pertinent information for the residents to understand. At the end of that 180-day period, then IDEM will review the documentation that has been provided by the county and the documentation from the residents. They will hold another public hearing to receive any final comments and thoughts, and then they will take their time, whatever time they need, to make a recommendation. And the recommendation would either be to form the district or not form the district, or to form the district with these modifications. So this is not a quick process. Nothing about this is a quick process. And again, this is not meant to be the final point in the process. This is meant to initiate the outreach efforts. Again, that was why there was concern about attending a last minute meeting without our subject matter experts who were being available and without being able to properly notify those who are actually impacted by the project. So that is the process. Okay, so a vote tonight, whichever way you choose to vote, does not end this. The process will go on until we get through this initiative with IDEM. And so for the residents, I want you to understand that this is not your only opportunity. In fact, you have not had opportunities yet, and that is by nature of the IDEM procedure. Again, no one in this room has control over that process, has control over how that looks. But we're in a situation where there's certain information that needs to be shared at certain times. Whether we like it or not, those are just the parameters that we have to work through. And so I'm happy to answer what questions I can. If you would like me to talk a little bit about the history of the situation, I can do that, but I think we kind of covered a lot of that already. And I do appreciate the council members, it was more than just 3 who looked at the preliminary engineering report. I do appreciate all of you who reached out to me and who spent time asking questions and engaging on that.
So you said, regardless of how we vote tonight, the process will continue. Does the council, or does your petition to IDEM require a resolution of support from the council?
That's probably more of a legal question. My understanding is that it is, if it's not required, it's strongly encouraged for the formation of the utility district. But that would be, I mean, the fact of the matter is that this situation is under an agreed order with IDEM. That is a legal court order. So the county has to do something with that. What that looks like in reviewing the different options, and I'm happy to talk about the different options, but I mean, you all know I could talk about this for a number of hours. It depends on what you would like me to talk about tonight. The mechanisms for the management of this effort, the resulting recommendation is a regional utility district formation for a number of reasons. One of the biggest ones is that the residents, it's important for the residents to have representation, and that is where the utility district comes into play. If there's not a district or a utility formed and put into place, then there is a partnership which could potentially become very one-sided, and which we have seen in other situations become very one-sided.
All right, so if you can't answer my question, then maybe our attorney, Mr. Cutter, can. Does the council have to pass a resolution of support for the petition to IDEM? I'm referencing Indiana Code 132622 here.
I don't have the statute in front of me. I can pull it up. It's my understanding that
It refers to the fiscal body, and I'm interpreting that to be the county council.
that's correct.
Where's our new attorney from?
I'm sorry.
Where are you from?
My office is in Lebanon.
Lebanon. Okay. I don't know that the IDEM has given them an order, but I don't know. It's on my Facebook page. I have the whole IDEM report.
Right now, with the timeline that you have to give this, you want to submit the petition to IDEM in June. And so you would need a resolution from the council prior to that to be able to submit to IDEM.
So actually, to clarify, that schedule that you have in front of you is tentative based on a resolution of support this evening. If that doesn't happen, the entire schedule changes, which also will delay the opportunity for the public engagement period. So that is just to clarify, I want to make sure we're not sharing misinformation about the timeline.
I'm reading the timeline that you gave me, and it is tentative. However, my point is that when I was reviewing Indiana Code, it didn't appear to specify that our resolution of support had to be before the public meeting. And when I called and spoke to IDEM, they said that they don't care which order that it happens. So what we could do at this time is to table our resolution of support until after the public meeting. And as long as that public meeting and our resolution of support would happen before June, you would still be able to submit your petition to IDEM in the same timely manner. And we could hear from the public.
There's been conversations that others had with individuals at IDEM that I don't know who they were talking to or what their roles are.
Emily
I
Foss,
can
would you like me
only
to show you
speak to
email?
the conversations that
It's
we
called
have had in
transparency.
meeting with IDEM and in meeting with the regulatory agencies.
Does our attorney have an opinion on if we have to have the resolution of support to move forward with a public meeting?
I do not. Do some research on it.
Okay.
Back to you, but I don't have an opinion on that.
Part of the consideration for the formation of the utility district is that in order to pursue, and I brought this up last month, but just to reiterate, in order to pursue the funding through the Indiana Finance Authority State Revolving Loan Program, the utility district needs to be the agency that would ultimately hold the bonds. Now, that doesn't mean that the county is not involved, because the county has to be involved throughout the process. However, we're working backwards from the timeline for the ARPA funds. If you recall, we've talked multiple times about appropriating ARPA funds for this effort over the past couple of years. And the council did finalize the appropriation for $3.5 million in ARPA funds last fall. If we do not spend those ARPA funds in the timeline, we can't use them on this project and they will have to be reappropriated. The reason that that is important is that every additional piece of funding that we can put towards this project helps with the ultimate rate situation. It helps with the overall funding package. So one of the concerns with delaying the formation and with not moving forward is that we will miss windows for funding opportunities that would allow us to take advantage of not only the ARPA funds, but also the subsidized loans through the Indiana Finance Authority and potentially forgivable loans through the SRF program.
Right, I'm not talking about messing with your timeline though. I'm just talking about us having the public meeting, which you already have tentative dates for, before the council says that we support it. Because if we say we support it tonight, then there's no reason to have that public meeting other than the fact that it's a formality and you're required to have it, because we can't then take that input and adjust if we're going to support the formation or not.
Correct.
And then at that point, the only way, if we did find out information at that public meeting that would make us change our mind, the only way that we would be able to stop the regional utility district at that point would be for the petition of opposition. And the way that I'm reading Indiana code, you would need to have the majority of the homeowners in the area sign that for it to be successful. And when you've drawn the boundaries as the entire unincorporated Monroe Township, you're talking about thousands of signatures that would have to be put on a petition in 180 days.
Are there any other questions from Ms. Bastin?
Well, to what Bethany was saying,
Can you speak up?
would it not be just the ones that are affected in that?
I don't know the answer to that.
Indiana code, I just read it. It reads as where the boundaries are. Hold on, I can look at
Currently, what are you looking at as the boundaries of this district?
The district is the unincorporated area of Monroe Township, as we discussed, with the initial project area of the Scotts and Phillips addition, or generally in the vicinity of those additions.
it. It says the majority of owners of property that would be served by the proposed district. So that's not talking about the initial project of Phillips and Scotts. It's talking about the proposed district, which is unincorporated Monroe Township.
Which is the
Are
largest
there other
township in the
Excuse me,
county.
sir, yeah, this isn't a time for public comment. Yeah, are there other questions? from Ms.
Even though you live there.
I was just curious as to what Councilor Keller was saying as far as the timeline goes. If this is something, if it's possible to go ahead and without having the council's support tonight, to go ahead and go along with what comes next. And then after that public meeting, come back for the council support. Is that possible?
I have never seen one done that way. I've been in this industry a while. I do not know the answer to that question. We proceeded the way that we have been advised to proceed. the way that from both the state regulatory agencies, the state funding agencies, and our subject matter experts and our attorney. I can't speak to that, unfortunately. I don't know. Like I said, I've never seen one done that way, but I just don't know the answer to that.
And in the memorandum, it does state if a majority of the property owners that would be served by the proposed district sign the opposing petition, the petition to establish the RUD would be voided. So it's our understanding then that after all these meetings, gathering public opinion, making sure every single person is aware, because obviously not every single person is aware yet, but every single person affected is aware. After gathering that, then they would have the final say.
I mean, you have thousands of people you have to get to sign that. There's thousands of homes and.
I understand,
Monroe Township.
That
That's
everyone would
a
be
lot of
informed. Sure, I guarantee it would be.
Other questions from the council?
Or you could just listen to your constituents first.
Right?
All looks on same.
Thank you.
Council discussion with regard to the resolution?
I would like to make a motion that we encourage Jessica Bastin to proceed with the timeline and that we table this until after the public meeting.
I would second that.
There is a motion. Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Roll call, please.
A roll call.
Please.
Thank you.
Counselor Steele?
No.
Counselor Colt?
No.
Counselor Liken?
No.
Counselor Grabowski?
Yes.
Counselor Keller?
Yes.
Vice President Norick?
Yes.
President Green?
So your physician doesn't care about your health. Right there.
We have a resolution before
Your
us.
physician does not care about your health.
Is there a discussion about the resolution or a motion?
I have one concern, and it's minor, but on the resolution, it doesn't say who it's prepared by, as far as like what legal firm wrote the resolution. Do we know who wrote it?
This is a big deal.
No?
No?
Jessica, do you know who
Would you like
drafted
to
it?
answer that? Yes, please.
It's prepared by the Commissioner's attorney, Jeff Graham, because at the time we do not have an attorney on board. So he prepared it for your consideration. It's certainly be modified as we send it over to.
So they're not even using their own attorney.
Mr. Cutter, have you reviewed it?
I have.
Do you have any concerns?
Any other discussion or motion?
I'll move that we pass resolution 2025-3B, a resolution regarding regional utility district.
Councilor Steele, is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Likens?
Counselor Steele?
Yes.
Counselor Colt?
Yes.
Counselor Liken?
Yes.
Counselor Grabowski?
No.
Counselor Keller?
No.
Vice President Norick?
No.
President Green?
Yes.
Somebody needs to take away his doctorates.
The next item of business is the alcohol beverage board appointment. I believe are Zach and Chad here?
Yes, sir. I'm Zach.
Zach, would you come on up and introduce us? Is Chad here tonight?
You're good.
Yeah, we have two